We are back again. The next step would be now to see what has been changed on Jens' part, and therefore, most likely, I'm flying around and looking at the stuff that he showed me earlier via our channel where we discuss what to do and what to change and what has been done on his part. Um, Nothing much to see here at the moment, but that is just because we have been fiddling around, or he has been fiddling around more in this part. As you can see, this is completely new. When you look into how it was looking before, it was all gray, just block out, and nothing really was to be seen. And you can see now that the chutes for the lifts have been added. The whole corridor has been fleshed out. There is now real geometry. There are now um, real materials and so on in place, so that the whole look and feel gets more and more uh, fully fleshed out. And you see it for the first time as well as I do at the moment, because this is a process that we go through every week, and he is very focused on what he can do in the week, and I am focused on what I can do. So most of the time, we are very independently working on everything. So the update in the geology room is very visible, I think. He did a real great job. I'm always amazed on what he can achieve in just 1 week. Um, and yeah, that's that's the remains of the geology and how it works and looks and feels in the moment. And most of the time, this is the exact process that I'm going through, meaning I'm looking for errors or stuff that is uh not working correctly, for example, after the merge and stuff like that, and then decide on what will be shown in the next devlog, um, to show you guys what has been updated, what are the most interesting things that has been worked on, and hopefully you like what we have been doing so far, and then get to work on setting up how and what we want to show with some magics inside of this whole thing. Um, I have created the whole subsystem on how the progression is tracked, how the quests are being tracked, how the research is going, how you can save and stuff like that. There is much more on to show that meets the eye in that regard. For example, you can see here for the quest subsystem that you can see which quest part is complete or active, which quest part is completed because it's a little bit different, uh, how the next step looks like, what the next step is, and stuff like that, which is really, really needed in order to have all the progress tracked correctly. For example, when you this is a placeholder, but when you go here and install a energy cell, which will be later down the line in the game, um, then it needs to trigger a world event. And this, for example, is not something that is coming out of Unreal itself. This is a complete self-written subsystem, which is basically everything that you see here, just in place to get that running. And speaking of that, um, just to give a little bit insight on why something like that can take a long time or can take longer than you need. The event name itself is basically just holding what event can be triggered and stuff like that, and the world trigger needs to know which event to trigger. And I was putting it like this inside of the world trigger event, which led to errors and me having some hours to search for the problem, because this is not just giving out the event name and putting it into the right format, but also transforming it into the way that the world trigger events was expecting that. If I would just use the internal one from Unreal, it would give out not the correct name. It would give out some the whole ID that they are inside of here. So, for example, it would give out ESSE condition type or quest type in this regard, double dot resource amount instead of just resource amount. And that was an error that I was looking for, or that blocked me in that regard for quite some hours. And yeah, just to give you a little insight on why sometimes you need to go a little bit deeper into it instead of just using what has been given. Um, Other than that, speaking of the objects, for example, that has been that were modified by both of us, this is the cartography table. Jens did something here, and I did something here. He did change some of the materials, which is easier to do. And what I did is uh, I created a listener or event that it looks for. Do I have energy to run in the first place? And I will show you that in just a second what that means, because before then it was always on, it was always running, and always shining like this when the player enters the room. Now, when you play the game and you go into here, not everything, but at least some parts are listening to do I have energy or not, so that it feels coherent. And how that looks like, I will show you in a second. So, there was a comment last week, someone asking if I could go a little bit deeper into the process of how the development goes and how it comes to life with the devlogs every week. So, fittingly enough, in this sprint, we were hitting our first milestone, the first MVP, minimal viable product, is reached. So I figured let's actually show that process, not just the result. Um, every week we are doing a merge of the two parts that are being developed, which means I am focusing the complete week on systems, logic, and on everything that comes to the back end side, so to say, in that regard. And on the other hand, we have Jens, which is our graphic designer for the 3D art and props and stuff like that. So basically everything that you can see on the outside. And we do a little merge, meaning we collab all the content. This is most of the time the first time that I see what he has been working on in 3D parts as well. So it's always a little bit of a surprise to me, because most of the time he delivers more than we were agreeing on or talking about. And as you can see, he did a very lot. I know what he did. He just changed very much of the streaming assets and stuff like that. Green means this is new, or I didn't touch it, because as you can see, this is my this is my part, and now I'm pulling his part into that. But there are always some more or less um, files that are touched by both, so I need to add them manually, which is, I'm going to speed up that process in a bit, but just that you can see what it would look like. And this is what we do on a regular basis on every Friday. Um, I need to figure out which thing was adjusted and what was the adjustment. So we discuss what was done, and then I decide in accordance to him what what prop or what asset we will use. In this regard, the first ones are all used, both modified them. His were just minor, mine were some logical changes, so we will keep mine for this sprint. And that means I just tell the command line to use ours. I will just copy that. I could already say, for example, that I could use just all of my stuff instead of manually going through every asset. Oh, yeah, it's more like it. Um, I could just say dot to get everything on this part to just use mine, but there are some assets that we deleted and stuff like that, so that wouldn't make sense. And therefore, I'm going to go through it manually, one by one. I know that he, for example, changed some materials inside of the category table, but I added some logic, and the logic is most likely the one that would take more time to recreate. So that's why we agreed that we will use mine that in that regard, and he will just adjust the material later on. In this regard, there are some actors inside of the level that he adjusted, most likely for the same stuff. So therefore, there is no logic involved. It's just a graphical thing. I don't know what I did there on the part. Maybe I just moved it a little bit, and that's why I'm just telling it to use his stuff. And as you can see, when I do git status now, the list will become smaller in a second. 3SR, so I'm on this part. Now this one. This is always a little bit tedious, but it needs to be done. And it's important to do so that we can align correctly on the stuff that we did. I will remove those where it says deleted by us, and I will just keep the ones that say both modified. Because everything else is not really of use. HC64. So this one, and then the last two before I can remove the remainings. There's always some cleanup in the process involved, meaning when we see there are old assets that are not really used or were there for testing purposes, then we will most likely just remove them. Most of the time, it's not even visible to whoever sees what we are doing. So therefore, this is for you guys seeing the video most likely um very not very not seeable. if so to say. So now delete all the assets that have been deleted. Was this one, and I will pick this one before I forget that. It's the upper one. Two to go. That should be all. Meaning if I do that now, add everything, it should all be green and no no content is now unresolved. Now that I've done that, every content is inside inside of what I have locally, meaning I will now commit everything. There you can see the whole list, what has been changed, new files, deleted files, modified files, and so on. And this is a list that appears like every week. After that has been done, I can verify now that everything works, meaning I will start the project for the first time after that. Then I can check out if everything has been done correctly from my end, and also if something went wrong on Jens' end. This will take a while if it when it's loading in. And if everything is correct, we will see that in a second. It's loading, no errors shown. I can see now with the map check that the map check says no errors, no warnings, no other things that are somehow load errors or whatever it is. That means the first step of creating the new video has been done. So I can show it in this regard if I just continue with the game with a previously saved file, and you can see that I start in the bridge section, and you can see here, for example, the complete table is empty. There is no shining, there is no projection, there is nothing. As same as for the navigation lights, where the player can do and see where to go next. And they are dark, as are some other lights as well, because the energy has not been restored. It's still too bright because it's a process to adjust every light to be just active when the energy is restored. But for now, just for a showcase purpose, that will do. You see, everything is dark. Now I'm going to install the energy cell. You can see that now the lights are going on, and you saw that that there was a little pop-up saying new step achieved. So the quest is now in the next phase, which you can see here as well in the debug menu. where you see the events that has been triggered so far. So from the start of the game until the point now, some other outputs, for example, like which voice lines have been triggered, and so on, so that everything looks more interactive and is more in tune with the feeling that the player should get when he is trying when he is trying to repair the ship and conquer it for his own purposes. Something that has been added in this sprint as well is the option to save. For the first time ever, the ship really remembers what you have been doing, what your inventory looks like, uh, or where you left off, in which state, on which floor, and so on and so forth. Um, this has been added so far, and um, what I can tell right now, for example, at the end of this devlog, you will see the first run through what the player will need to do to reach the end of the demo in a little bit speeded up or a shorter way. And I will trick a little bit in that regard because we have the elevators visually there, but you cannot use them right now because the technique behind that is not in place correctly at the moment. Because you need to see, you need to look exactly on which button to press, and this needs to be triggering the elevator to move, which is at the moment not fully integrated. The basic setup has been done, that was showcased in one of the devlogs earlier. This is, for example, the whole logic in a very not looking like an elevator style, but if you press, for example, the middle button, you will see that the elevator is moving down. So the basic functionality is there. I just need to combine that now, um, to have it working for the real elevators to be working as intended. And because of that, I will need to I will need to trick a little bit to move my player around the place so that he can reach every spot that he needs to reach for the demo to be fully working. So when the player has reached the tool and wants to go back up, he will get to the top of the ship and arrive basically here. And that means I'm going to need to teleport myself onto this spot right here. Um, and I am not as I'm not aware of what the coordinates will look right now, I will take the spawn of the player and just simply if I can reach it, and place it towards, it says bad size, which makes sense because he cannot spawn here. Here it's working again. Here I can just basically copy all the data that I need to see which is the location. And now I just revert that to the starting location where the player should start when creating a new game. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a little teleport box to uh, fake the way up, because I said the way down works, but the way up needs to be faked at the moment because the elevator still needs to be wired correctly. That means I'm going to place one of our previously used stuff that we use all over the level. Um, example, I can use this and call it BP teleporter. Then just place it, for example, here so that it will be visible for the player, or for the one that plays the demo later on. There will be no teleporter, but for now, for the video, it needs to be. It can be done like this, and then we will basically just say on the interact. Basically just say we have the destination where we want to go. I copied that, and this will be this part here. Don't care for the rotation at the moment, meaning where the player will look when he gets there. And now everything should be set up, so if I test it in that regard, meaning I play from here, just see the button, seeing highlighted, pressing it, and it's not working. That that is something, for example, that I need to look into. But I know where I have used the teleport function so far, so I can basically look up my own implementation of that. Meaning, for example, in the cinematics for the officer cutscene, I have the set quest trigger and such like that. Spawn light. There are some events that are being triggered, and I can go into that because there I update the place of the player as well. For example, here, get actor location. We will just do the actor itself and say here, this is what I basically need. Meaning this is maybe the wrong node to use. There we can now put in the values, and that should then work. So the teleport, even though the name was suggesting that it should work, did not work. We can see if that does the trick. And just to be sure that I see that it was pressed, I'm going to put a little debug here saying teleporter activated in green for 5 seconds so that we can really see that everything has been done properly. And it's closed now. Teleporter so that I don't need to fly through the level, just my little way of navigating around because I basically know where everything is. So when it loads up, sometimes it takes a little bit more because it's loading the assets and streams and stuff like that. Um, I don't know what was happening now. Ah, I know what. I know what. Sorry. That's, for example, something that you can see that should not happen, but that is always good why I'm testing it before doing anything in the video, because it needs to be working correctly so that I can show you what the actual button should do. And it won't. It won't let me. So I'm going to look that up in a second. I will be right back. So I looked into it, and the solution was pretty simple. I just needed to figure out what was causing the problem. Basically, when you push the button, I used Raycast to see what he's looking at, and in the process of teleporting upwards, he sees the pickup and tries to pick up that on the way up. So I bypassed that and saying that the player just basically needs to get close enough to the button and then everything works as intended. As you can see here, I'm just going to go there and voila, I am where I want to be. Perfect. And for the demo to have everything that it should have, we need to first of all get this pickup item to be in place at the right spot. So therefore, I'm moving it through the whole level to reach the spot where I want it to be. For the test purposes, or for the sole purpose of showing that, I will put it right here into the hangar. This is where the player needs to go to grab that piece of equipment. So that it feels like a little journey to get there. When you first arrive on the ship, it's basically on this side, and you need later on to get to here to get this piece of equipment, which is not the final art, by the way, but for now it will do. And to get down here, it's easy because I can basically just jump down. But to get up, we would need the elevator, which is not fully integrated at the moment. But we're going to trick that in just a second. For the most parts, for the last devlogs, what we always did was, or what I always did is, like, set up a manual cinematic and camera movement to see everything from the perspective of what has been changed and how it works and looks. And for this devlog, I am going to change that and not use a predetermined path to follow, because, as said and mentioned earlier, we are now in the first milestone of our game. We have the first MVP ready, and I would just play through it without any commentary so far, just some highlights in the run through to showcase what has been visually updated and how everything works together now as it should. And hopefully the player will never notice anything that has been shared so far, because when you play the game, you should be able to have a seamless and full full immersion, a gameplay feeling, and not like there's a system at work. And that's why I'm always very glad when you guys appreciate the visuals, but uh, do not really have to look into the specifics or the blueprints and the logic and the system behind that, because that is always a good sign that a hidden feature or a hidden mechanic that you do not see but you take for granted and it works just like you expect it to do, that's somewhat of a very good feeling for me. That means I did a good job in not having it too obvious or too gamified and stuff like that for you to see. So with all that being said, I think that gives a good overview on how the devlogs are created, what's going on behind the scenes, and how everything works. If you have more detailed questions on uh, how did I do this or how did I do that, I can do that as well. What I wanted to show shortly is I built an little tool for the quest because it's otherwise a little bit, let's say, harder to maintain how the flow is. And basically, you can see here what the quest line is, what the steps are inside of the quest line, and what you will play in the demo is basically this chain here, where you can say what needs to be done, which part can be the next step, how it's called, and stuff like that. And you can place steps between that. You can alter the places. You can say which trigger should be done. So, like, is there anything that needs to be picked up? Is there a place that needs to be reached? Is there some mechanic that needs to be um, updated as well? And if you're ready for that and you just created whatever you want to do, then you can export that, and then the game on start will read that into it and automatically um, transform that into a format that our game understands, so that you can get going without having to manually input or rewrite anything. You just need to say which step is now active, which world event needs to be triggered. For example, here in the um, when you locate the officer lounge and unlock that, then the event power cell acquired. Uh, I think it's the wrong name, but yeah, you get the drift. The event is now fired, and then when the event is now completed, then the next step can be done. And you can see here the event, for example, officers lounge entered, needs to be done as well. Yeah, but that's just on a short side note. That's something, for example, that I think most of the guys outside will never see because it's not very needed. Just for some nerds that want to see a little bit more detail, I wanted to show that. And yeah, now I'm going to record the playthrough without my commentary. So that would be then everything that the normal devlog would have been. But for that, for example, what I'm always doing is I'm going to disable all screen messages so that you don't see the warnings that are not necessarily very interesting. I'm hiding all the gizmos so that you don't see any hitboxes, collisions, and stuff like that, because that's, at least for the video, very, very ugly. And now I'm going to record the playthrough. Just to be sure, as you can see here, I basically just removed this one and said, don't press the button, but just get close enough to it, like those automated doors um, that you have in like every game or in real life as well. So the logic was correct, just the wrong trigger to get that running. Um, Now that this is in place, I can basically set up all the shots that I would need to have the full run through going. meaning I would start at the bridge, show everything, and that's what we're going to do right now. Therefore, I need to load the main menu so that we can load the save state that we are going to run for. I'm going to minimize that just to have a little bit less hassle on the screen. And as you can see right now, I'm loading the game, continue it. There's no line spoken so far. There is nothing that has been triggered beside all the quests that need to be done before you can reach the spot here. And when I now go into it, Android will start talking, which you cannot hear at the moment because it's turned right very quietly, and it will update the quest marker. As you saw, there are new chapters inside of the first quest, the quest part or chapter part, and everything is working as it should. 3 lines, that's what need to be fired. Then you can install the energy cell. You see now new objective found, meaning the quest is now active and there are new events triggered in the background, which basically say, okay, now you are up for the next part. The next part would be acquire the repair tool, which the player needs to get through. I'm going to use just the normal route now, as said, because the playable route will be slightly different than the route that I'm using right now. It's just for showcase purpose, so that you can see what needs to be done to get where you want to go. And obviously there will be a lot more to discover and to see when the demo is more fleshed out, when there is more to look through, and when everything gets the treatment to be fully integrated as well. And now the player can find the tool, pick it up, have a little animation, which is, as I see, a little bit broken because I need to relocate the mannequin to have the animation going, because now it would have been, the animation is still on the bridge, so to say, but that's not a problem. Now I have the pickup tool. You see teleporter activated, triggered correctly, and then the player can go through a place that he has previously not been able to traverse to. At the moment, it's you can traverse around the ring, but later on you will not be able to do that. Then you can reach the officer's lounge. You see now the door is unlocked. Previously you would not be able to go through here. And then the cutscene, which will trigger some events as well, starts, and you can see the stuff not really exploding, but doing things that will be done later on in the demo. And that would be the part where everything fades to black. The outro will play, and you need to go to the next stage of the game, and you can see the events and the lines and stuff like that. There is much more because the quests are working as intended, and that would be the showcase that I would go through. Okay, for example, here I can see a little bit side note, floating lamps. I think there are some chains or something missing, but basically that would be the first part in the very shortest and most collapsed way, but it works. It works from start to finish. The player can reach it, and now it would be up to set up some camera works and try to get the most beautiful shots out there to let you guys see how the week went and what we did and what has been cooking under the hood, so to say.